challenge us, you will give us tools to help us grow and to become who you've called us to be. In Jesus' name, and everybody said, Amen. Amen. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to those on Facebook Live as well. It's good to be with you this morning. Just a quick note. So next week, or not next week, tomorrow, the Rule of Six comes in. Okay, so we will be gathering as normal on Sundays here at St Mark's Church Hall because the rules allow us to do so. Okay, the one thing that we will need to make sure is that in any social interaction that we make sure we follow the Rule of Six. Okay, so after the service is finished, we just need to make sure we adhere to the Rule of Six. Is that all right? All right, we are in our. We're in the book of Nehemiah. I want to direct your attention to Nehemiah chapter 7. And the Bible says this. It says, after the wall was rebuilt, I had installed the doors, and the security guards, the singers, and the Levites were appointed. I put my brother Hananiah, along with Hananiah, the captain of the citadel, in charge of Jerusalem, because he was an honest man and feared God more than most men. And I gave them this order: do not open the gates of Jerusalem until the sun is up, and shut and bar the gates while the guards are still on duty. Appoint guards from the citizens of Jerusalem and assign them posts in front of their own homes. The city was large and spacious, with only a few people in it, and the houses have not yet rebuilt. God put it in my heart to gather the nobles and officials and the people in general to be registered. And I found a genealogical record of those who were in the first return of the exile. And then the next 54 verses of Nehemiah chapter 7 give us an account of those genealogies and those records and how many people from each household were made up the people that were now in Jerusalem. We're nearing the end of our talks on Nehemiah. This is the penultimate discussion, second to last discussion on Nehemiah. And we're looking at the lessons of rebuilding, we're looking at the lessons of transformation, we're looking at the lessons of dealing with change and ultimately becoming who God wants us to be and building things in our own lives and as a community. Now, Nehemiah is a great story, I think. It's a great story. And over the last few weeks, we've spoken about passion and urgency. We've spoken about using our influence and building a covenant of change. We've spoken about strategic vision and organisation. We've spoken about the team it takes to rebuild. We have spoken about enabling actions by removing barriers. And we've spoken about celebrating steps to generate miles. This week, I want to talk about don't slack up, keep on working, and stretch forward. Amen. Don't slack up, keep on working, and stretch forward. You know, when we are nearing the end, I don't know about you, but I'll just talk about me. Whenever I'm nearing the end of something, one of the easy things to do is become complacent. It's to take your foot off the pedal slightly and just to begin to relax and chill out. And as we become complacent, a couple of things set in. We become less vigilant. We become less guarded. And one of the things that we see in the book of Nehemiah is the project is coming to an end. The project of rebuilding the walls and hanging the gates on the doors, the gates on the gate posts, is coming to an end. And so, you know, it's easy for Nehemiah to breathe out, take a deep breath, and to, you know, back up a little bit, you know. But what we see in Nehemiah is Nehemiah doesn't do that. And one of the things that we discover in the book of Nehemiah is the level of opposition. Everyone say opposition. Opposition that Nehemiah experiences in his work to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Maureen spoke about this a few weeks ago when she spoke about removing barriers. And she spoke about those external barriers coming in and those internal barriers. And I just want to sort of just remind us about those external barriers that Nehemiah was experiencing, those external opposition that Nehemiah experienced. They came pretty much from two people in the text. We have two people in the text that opposed Nehemiah. The first one was Sanballat, and the second one was Tobiah. And we read in Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 1 that when Sanballat heard that they were rebuilding the wall, he exploded in anger, vilifying the Jews. In the company of his Samaritan cronies, I'm reading from the Message version, and military, he let loose. What are these miserable Jews doing? Do they think they can get everything back to normal overnight? Make building stones out of make-believe. And when you read Nehemiah, there's this vehement sort of opposition, this passionate opposition to Nehemiah. And we don't exactly know why he was so opposed to Nehemiah and the work that Nehemiah was doing. We don't know what his agenda was. We don't know why he was trying to frustrate the plans of rebuilding. Some recent research indicates that he is a descendant of one of the oldest Samaritan families, and that he has risen the ranks to become the governor of Samaria. And he's got an aim of uniting Samaria together. And it seems to indicate that his rationale around his opposition to Nehemiah is some form of nationalism. It's based on, this idea of nationalism that's based on the denigration of other people and the denigration of other groups and other nations, and those that are considered to be a threat to his agenda. And so it seems like he considers Nehemiah a threat to what he's doing. And so he's passionately opposing the things that he's doing. It kind of sounds like a lot of the stuff that we see happening around us today in terms of the nationalistic agendas. So that's Sanballat. Then you've got Tobiah. The Tobiah is an Ammonite. Ammon is modern day Jordan. And he has sons and daughters that are married into families or into the families of the Jewish leaders. So he may be Jewish, we don't know, but he lives in Ammon. So he's got interest elsewhere, but he's got his feelers in the camp. He's got his spies in the camp, his people in the camp. And Sanballat and Tobiah form a coalition that mocks, intimidates, threatens, uses violence, and tries to trap Nehemiah at different points throughout the project. And I just want to sort of just talk about some of this opposition. The first time we hear about Sanballat is in Nehemiah chapter 4 verses 1 to 3. And what we hear is they belittle the work of Nehemiah's doing. And so he's angry, and Tobiah comes along and goes, even foxes will knock it down. They're belittling. And Nehemiah's response is to pray and to keep on working. Okay? He doesn't pay much mind to it, much attention. And there's some lessons here. You know, sometimes we're losing our stuff. Over things that don't warrant your attention. Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 7 to 9, we find out that they use violence to intimidate, and the threat of violence to intimidate Nehemiah. And Nehemiah's response was to pray, and now his response is to arm people and arm guards. And when you read the text, he said there was one person working and there was another standing guard.
That's right,
And see, what that tells us that there are other things that you need to take a little more seriously. And you need to put things in place. Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 10 to 23, they use Sanballat and Tobiah use rumour and misinformation to intimidate the workers. What Nehemiah did, Nehemiah assessed the vulnerabilities of the work. And ensured that these areas were properly protected. And he also motivated, and again, he armed the workers. You see that. Nehemiah 6, verse 1 to 9. They use the art of distraction and entrapment in trying to get Nehemiah to meet with them. And what the text says, they tried 5 times. Saying, come meet with us over here. Come meet with us. And Nehemiah's response is, I'm far too busy.
Yeah.
I can't stop the work that I'm doing. It's too important, and what you're doing is not important. Right? And in Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 10, they tried to hire a prophet, or as I like to call them, prophets.
Yes.
Not prophesying, but doing stuff for profit. They tried to hire a prophet to give some prophecies that dissuade Nehemiah from what he's doing. But Nehemiah's discernment sees through that plot and sees what they're up to. And all the time that this is happening, what we're told around the end of Nehemiah chapter 6, we're told that all the time this is happening, that there's some sort of league going on between Sanballat, Tobiah, and the nobles of the city. Because the nobles of the city are talking to Nehemiah and going, oh no, Tobiah, he's great, he's doing great things. And all the other while, Tobiah is sending intimidating letters and putting plans and plots into place to try and intimidate Nehemiah. In Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 15 to 16, we are told that the wall is finished on the 25th day of Elul, and it has taken 52 days. And when all our enemies heard the news, and when all the surrounding nations saw it, our enemies totally lost their nerve. They knew God was behind this work. Can you hear the sigh of relief in that text? Can you hear everyone breathing out and starting to relax? Because the work is what? Finished. And the enemies has lost their steam. There's nothing left to worry about. You know, you can grab a beer and relax and take it easy. And the thing is, Nehemiah did not do that. Nehemiah did not do that. And what we see in Nehemiah is there is no complacency in Nehemiah. When everything begins to look okay and the threat begins to look over, this is when complacency sets in, and this is when we become less vigilant and less guarded. Especially when you've been living at that heightened sense of stress. You know what it's like, don't you? When the very bones and muscles in your body ache because you've been living at that level of stress for a period of time. You know, DEFCON 10. Everything in your body wants you to breathe out and relax. Let go and take it easy. The definition of complacency is a feeling of contentment or self-satisfaction, often combined with a lack of awareness of the pending trouble or controversy. Complacement is likely to set in when you feel like everything is okay. It's when you begin to celebrate and you begin to think that it's all over. We are moving to the end of the project and it's celebration time in the text. The singers are appointed, the Levites are appointed, the priests are appointed. Everybody's in place to celebrate the great work that they have done. The walls are rebuilt, the doors are installed. Everybody is ready. However, Nehemiah's foresight sees beyond this. Nehemiah notes that the city still has a number of vulnerabilities and that there is still work to do. Now what I want to say this morning is that there's nothing wrong with contentment, but it's knowing when to be content and knowing when not to be content. And it's making sure that when you are content, that your contentment is not based upon arrogance. It's over. No one can touch me. No one can touch what I'm doing. And what we see happening in this text is Nehemiah resisting complacency. Instead of relaxing and chilling, Nehemiah does three things. He didn't slack up, he kept on going, and he kept stretching forward. And there are three things I want to leave with you today. Three thoughts. Don't slack up, keep on going, and stretch forward. Say that with me. Don't slack up, keep on going, stretch forward. So the first point, don't slack up. Even though Nehemiah notes that the threat of opposition seems to be over, his instinct is to remain vigilant. We see in the first few verses of this text, I put my brother Hananiah, along with Hananiah, the captain of the citadel, in charge of Jerusalem, because he was an honest man and feared God more than most men. And I gave him this order: don't open the gates of Jerusalem until the sun is up. Shut and bar the gates while the prophets are still on duty. While the guards are still on duty. Appoint the guards from the citizens of Jerusalem and assign them to to post in front of their own homes. Nehemiah remained vigilant. Nehemiah kept his guard up. Instead of winding down, Nehemiah stepped up the security. And what Nehemiah does at this point is he puts his brother in charge. Everyone say his brother. He puts his brother in charge. And he gives his brother strict orders. Don't open the gates at night. Don't do it. Gives him strict orders. And what you get from the sense of this text, this is maybe a job that many people could do. But Nehemiah just couldn't give this job to anybody. Yes. He had to give it to someone he could trust. Someone that had demonstrated that he could trust them. And so this was not just a job for anyone. He chose his brother, and we read in the text, he chose his brother because of the character he demonstrated. He was an honest man. He was a trustworthy person. And he gave his brother those strict instructions, and gave him strict instructions on how to appoint the guards. And you know, there are times when you will be tempted to slack up. There are times where you will be tempted to relax. And everything inside of you will tell you, not yet. Yeah. Not yet. And there's a lesson there. Listen to your gut. Listen to your instinct. There's times that you need to be vigilant and make sure you put the right people in charge of the right things. You know, when you begin to stack up, the work is done, you think, well, I can just give it to that person. They need an opportunity. No. Nehemiah puts his brother in charge of this work. And so there are times when that thing, when one voice starts telling you you can relax now, you start to get a little less guarded. You start to do different things. But there are times when you just can't choose anyone. And it's interesting. Do you notice what Nehemiah did there? So Nehemiah says, I want you to raise guards from different people in Jerusalem. And I want you to get them to post guard outside their own homes. Yeah. So what Nehemiah did, he got everybody involved in guarding. But the ones he didn't fully know, or hadn't fully demonstrated that trustworthiness, he got them to guard where their investment was. Their homes. Yeah? They weren't allowed, they might open the gates if they were in charge of the city. Yes. But they weren't allowed to let anybody walk into their homes. And so you see Nehemiah's strategy there, and how he got people involved in it, and how he deployed people in different ways in a very vigilant and guarded way. You know, I'm reminded of the city of Troy. You all remember the city of Troy, don't you? Where the people of Troy had thought that the Greeks had abandoned their plot to overthrow the city. Their camp was empty, and they began to celebrate. And when they got there, they saw this great, humongous wooden horse. All the tents were torn up, and you know, fires were out. They said the threat is over, and they marched that big wooden horse back to the city, right through the city gates, and celebrated and got drunk and partied and do all the things that you do when you're happy and it's celebrating time. And what they didn't realise is that they'd let the enemy into their city without even any effort whatsoever, and their city got destroyed. And what I'm saying here is, I'm saying it's not that we shouldn't celebrate. We should. Tell somebody celebrate. But when you celebrate, keep both eyes open. Yes. Keep watch. Remain vigilant. You know, there's still work to do. Remain guarded. What I'm saying here is don't become intoxicated over your own success. You know, we can be like that, can't we? I'm the man. You know, look at what I just did. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a man, good man. and we let our guards down. And what I'm saying is, let's not become intoxicated. So don't slack up. That's the first point. The second point that Nehemiah did is Nehemiah kept on working. Tell somebody, keep on working. Keep on working. You know, when you succeed, guess what happens? People around you want to start congratulating you. Yeah. Come on. You know, people like, good man, good woman. I'm saying? You know, where you get that kind of boss walk, you know? You know, you're walking down the street, there's no music, but in your head. You know, you've got the music playing in your head. Because everybody's got fist bumping, high-fiving, hugging when we could have hugged and doing all of that stuff. Because people want to celebrate success. And you're doing all of that. And you know, it's easy to get distracted in that. It's easy to get distracted, and it's easy to buy into the hype that you see playing out around you. And what you've got to do, that, you know, when you're at the end of your project, and when you don't want complacency to set in, there are times when you've got to keep your head out the clouds. Keep it on the ground. You've got to stay grounded. Remember what got you where you were.
Amen.
Remember the lessons you learned to get you where you are right now. And keep on doing it.
Amen.
Keep on working. And that's the second point. Keep on working. Nehemiah remembered what got him here where he was. He remembered his vision. He remembered his commitment to that vision. He remembered the hard work that he did to make it happen. Yeah. And Nehemiah keeps on doing what he's always been doing, leading and working. Yeah. Strategic leadership and planning and organising and getting people in place. He's not complacent at this point. He's still plotting, he's still preparing, he's still organising, he's still moving things on. And Nehemiah tells us that if we want to see the new reality, then we have to maintain and sustain. Yes. Maintain and sustain and not slow down. Now is not the night time to take your foot off the pedal, but now is the time to keep your foot on the pedal and keep on moving forward. I just want to show you a clip, and hopefully it will play. Right? Watch this. Did you see it? Yeah. Look at it. Look. Chili. I love it.
Awesome.
Look, he's got it. Oh, poor dude. I mean, he's celebrating way too early, isn't he? I mean, he's there cheering way too early. You know, he thought he had it in the bag. And what he didn't see is somebody else quickly running up behind him. And the temptation is, when you see the light at the end of the tunnel, to slow down, kick off the shoes. That in reality, when you see that finish post, when you're on that final leg, now is the time to give it everything you've got. Put every last bit of energy, every bit of anything that you can muster and start striving for. If he had just done that instead of doing this, put energy in the legs, not the hands. I mean, he might have won it. That other guy did look really fast, but he might have won it, but he didn't. And so the second point of today's talk is you've got to keep on working. Don't stop. Don't slow down. Sustain and maintain. Maintain and sustain. If you want to see the end, keep on going. The third thing that Nehemiah does in the text is Nehemiah stretches forward. Everyone say stretches forward. Stretch forward. That's what I wanted to say. Stretch forward. Stretch forward. In the text, what we see, he develops new goals and new plans. So what we see in the text, it says the city was large and spacious, with only a few people in it, and the houses had not yet been rebuilt. It gives you a key to what Nehemiah is thinking about next. I finished the walls, but now look at these houses. Thinking about that next. And then he says, God put it in my heart to gather the nobles, the officials, and the people, and in general, to be registered. And I found a genealogical record of those who were the first to return from exile. What Nehemiah is doing here is he's looking forward to what we've done the walls and the gates. Now who's going to inhabit this city? Yeah. What is next? And for Nehemiah, it's about seeing the lives of people flourish. So the next 55 verses in that chapter are about people that came back from captivity, and it's about tracing their origins back to their descendants. And when I first thought Not
No.
well, not another one of these names that I can barely pronounce, you know. And I looked and I thought, what's going on here? But the point here is Nehemiah is not about walls and gates. Yeah. Nehemiah is about the people of God finding their way back home and flourishing. Yeah. That's what the book of Nehemiah is about. And what this text lets us know, it lets us know what's important to God and what's important in this story. And what's important in this story are people, families, and people having a place that they can go home, and people having a place where they can thrive. That's what's important to God. And what we see here is Nehemiah's initial vision was about walls and gates and a city, but it wasn't. It was always about people and their lives. And we see this powerfully in this text.